morning, guys. I'm so glad you're here today. We've got a really special lesson today. First off, I'd like to ask a couple questions. You might wonder at first what they have to do with each other, but we'll find out by the end of the lesson. So first question, I want you each to share with me one thing that you've either read or heard about slavery. Will, we'll start with you.
Emancipation Proclamation.
Okay, so that was when the slaves were set free. Good job. Bailey?
The Underground Railroad.
Okay, good job.
I've been to a house that kept people slaves.
Like in the Underground Railroad, like when they were going free, or like a slave hut. Is that what you mean? Like on the plantation?
It was a basement.
A basement. Okay.
So probably the Underground Railroad.
Okay. Very good, guys. Now my second question, you can raise your hand if you think you know the answer. What do you think was the most important invention during the Industrial Revolution? You can just take a guess. And it's okay if you get it wrong.
Cotton gin.
Cotton gin. Good job. That's exactly what we're going to talk about today. So you might wonder why what the cotton gin and the slavery has to do with each other, but we're going to read a little excerpt from a book written by a former slave. And at the end, I think you'll be able to see the connection. So I'm going to read some background to you, and then we're going to take turns reading paragraphs to read this little short story out of this book. So Solomon Northup was a slave who eventually gained his freedom and wrote about his experiences. Below is a section adapted from his book titled 12 Years a Slave. In 1850, more than 3 million enslaved African Americans lived in the United States. 7 out of 8 worked on plantations. Most slaves performed basic labor as field hands. Picking and cleaning cotton was one activity that field hands had to do. Inventions like Eli Whitney's cotton gin made cotton farming more profitable than it had ever been before. The cotton gin also made the job of cleaning cotton much easier. As you read and experience the activity that we're going to do in a little bit, think about why an enslaved African American would want to pick just the right amount of cotton. Okay, Casey, we're going to start with you. Just read the first paragraph, and I'll have each of you read one paragraph, and then I'll finish it up. Okay?
In the latter parts of August begins the cotton picking season. At this time, each slave is presented with a sack. A strap is fastened to it, which goes over the neck, holding the mouth of the sack chest high, while the bottom reaches nearly the ground. Each one is also presented with a large basket that will hold about 2 barrels. This is to put the cotton when the sack is full. The baskets are carried to the field and placed at the beginning of the rows.
When a new hand, one unaccustomed to the business, is sent for the first time into the field, he is whipped up smartly and made for that day to pick as fast as he can possibly. At night it is weighed, so that his capability in cotton picking is known. He must bring in the same weight each night following. If it falls short, it is considered evidence that he has been laggard, and a greater or less number of lashes is the penalty.
An ordinary day's work is 200 pounds. A slave who is accustomed to picking is punished if he or she brings in a less quantity than that. There is a great difference among them as regards this kind of labor. Some of them seem to have a natural knack or quickness which enables them to pick with great quickness and with both hands, while others, with whatever practice or industry, are utterly unable to come up to the ordinary standard. Patsy, a friend of mine, was known as the most remarkable cotton picker. She picked with both hands and with such surprising rapidity. That 500 pounds a day was not unusual for her.
Each one is tasked, therefore, according to his picking abilities, none, however, to come short of 200 weight. I, being unskillful always in that business, would have satisfied my master by bringing in the latter quantity, meaning 200 pounds, while on the other hand, Patsy would surely have been beaten if she failed to produce twice as much. The cotton grows from 5 to 7 feet high, each stalk having a great many branches, shooting out in all directions and lapping each other above the water furrow. It presents an appearance of purity, like an immaculate expanse of light, new-fallen snow. The hands are required to be in the cotton field as soon as it is light in the morning, and, with the exception of 10 or 15 minutes, which is given them at noon to swallow their allowance of cold bacon, they are not permitted to be a moment idle until it is too dark to see. And when the moon is full, they oftentimes labor till the middle of the night. They do not dare to stop even at dinner time, nor return to the quarters, however late it be, until the order to halt is given by the driver. The day's work over in the field, the baskets are toted, or in other words carried, to the gin house where the cotton is weighed. No matter how fatigued and weary he may be, no matter how much he longs for sleep and rest, a slave never approaches the gin house with his basket of cotton, but with fear. If it falls short in weight, if he has not performed the full task appointed him, he knows that he must suffer. And if he has exceeded it by 10 or 20 pounds, in all probability his master will expect, or will measure the next day's task accordingly. So whether he has too little or too much, his approach to the gin house is always with fear and trembling. Okay, so from that short story, we get just a little bit of a picture of what it was like to be a slave. So Bailey, can you tell me, why do you think the slave would want to pick just the right amount of cotton?
So they wouldn't get beaten for picking less cotton, and then so the next day they wouldn't have to work twice as hard if they got extra
A little bit extra, that's right. That would be really hard to get just the right amount every time. Okay, so before the cotton gin, before Eli Whitney came along and invented the cotton gin, which we're gonna see a picture of in a little bit, when they picked cotton, it was dirty. When we think of cotton, we think white, pure white, but that's not how it is when they pick it. So I'm gonna give each of you this little bag. You can use your paper so it doesn't get dirt all over the table. And we're gonna take just about 30 seconds to a minute, and you're gonna see how much you can clean in that amount of time, okay? So I'll watch the clock back there. Let you pick it out. And if you get a piece that you think is completely clean, make a little pile in the corner of your paper, okay? Go. Okay, that's been just about a minute. How'd you guys do? Let me see.
It's hard because you got so many little pieces in there.
Yeah, well, so that's what it was like. Slaves would sit in the house and they would have to sit and pick that all out by hand.
Yikes.
Now, I don't have cotton seeds in here because I just went out to my barn and got dirt. But they would actually have to take the seeds out and save them for the next year's crop. So you can slide that to the side because I'm going to pass out, and we'll throw it away later. So just slide it over. Okay, good job. So that gave you just a little bit of a feeling what it was like to be a slave and have to clean cotton. Well then, in 1794, Eli Whitney came along, and he had seen the idea for this in other parts of the world. I think there were some in Europe prior to this, but he made it better. He added stuff to it, made it better. And so these pictures kind of show the top view of it, and this is how he got his patent for it. But basically, it had a bunch of teeth and rollers that would pull the cotton through, and those teeth and combs would pull all of that out of the cotton, and it was much, much faster than doing it by hand. So what do you think the effect, what effect do you think that had on a cotton farmer? Let's say he had 10 acres of cotton fields, and before the cotton gin, he had to hire slaves. They had to pick it all out by hand, and he didn't make very much money because it just took a long time to do. But then this came along, and let's say he purchased the cotton gin. Casey, do you think that helped his profit in the end?
Yes, because now he has more slaves in the field,
That's-
picking more cotton, and then it also gets cleaned
Yes.
faster.
Exactly. So, we're going to end by talking just a little bit about positive and negatives with the cotton gin. So, Casey pretty much just said them both. Bailey, what do you think was the positive effect that the cotton gin had, the invention of the cotton gin had on the cotton farmers and the economy?
It picked cotton faster, so it got sent out faster.
It cleaned the cotton. It didn't pick it. The
Oh,
slaves still
got
had to
it.
pick. Yep.
Cleaned
It
faster.
cleaned it, and then they were able to make more money. Which soon after this, the sewing machine was invented, which made the demand for cotton much more, because then they had factories that could actually make the clothes instead of everyone sewing by hand. So there were a lot of things kind of happening around the same time. Will, what do you think was a negative that came along with the invention of the cotton gin?
Are we looking more like slavery? Like,
Yes.
so I would think that like there'd be less slave, would be like less for them. They'd get less slaves and stuff like that, and slavery would be less of a
You
thing
would
for
think
them.
that's how it would be, but it was actually the opposite. When the cotton gin was invented, farmers needed more slaves because they were planting more cotton. Because now they could clean bushels and bushels and bushels and hundreds of pounds of cotton a day. Well, they didn't have enough slaves. When they were cleaning it by hand, now they needed more slaves to go out to the fields to care for the cotton, to pick it, to hoe it, make it grow.
Mhm.
So it actually made the slave population tick way up. So that's a negative, because slavery was not a bright chapter in U.S. history. Okay, so I've got just a real short quiz for you guys. It's 3 questions, so don't sweat it, and it is multiple choice. So just circle the answer of the right, or circle the letter, my bad, of the right answer. Good job, guys. You all got 100s.
Yes.
Yay! Thank you.